Hey Clashers, we have a new event troop in the game since the start of April, the Yeeter. And even though we had some problems in the beginning with this troop, I want to share the top 3 strategies you can play with this new event troop. Obviously, the troop itself works kinda like a thrower, which means it has a long distance shot, and the first 4 of them is going to spawn tribal tag team members into the base, which means you're pretty much spawning your own mini tanks. This is super strong and you can build a lot of nice strategies around it, like this first one. The mass Yeeter strategy. You don't need more than this. 7 Yeeters is all you need. For this, you just need to have a little bit of support with the heroes, some spells to make sure that you can get through the base, and that is it pretty much. First things first, what you try to do on this one is try to avoid the most damage and everything, but you're pretty much going from an entire flank. So for us, we're going from the bottom towards the right side into the base, which means on one of those corners, the corners which is a little bit more heavy on the damage, we're going to have 1 Yeeter, the Siege Barracks and the Royal Champion, while on the other corner we have 3 Yeeters. Then in between of that we have King, Queen and the Warden with the remaining 3 Yeeters, and then the jump or the wall break leading into the base. Depending on the structure of the walls, you want to wall break first, or maybe on the back end, depending on how everything is set up. On this base, we're going to jump into the base quite early, to then jump over the core to reach everything. The entire concept here is that you're spawning your own protection on the far right side with the Yeeters, and then you have the Siege Barracks with the support of 1 additional Yeeter and the Royal Champion on the other corner. This is really pushing your heroes with the remaining troops through the core, making sure that you have a strong push. And to make this even better, we have as well the healers from the Archer Queen in the core, and on top of that as well the Eternal Warden ability to keep everything safe with the Healing Tome together. Is going to be a great combination. Something you can play as well if you want to is the Rage Jump. Obviously this means that you have less protection than for the troops itself, but it should work anyways. Like both will work great, you could just pick whatever you have higher levels. If you have access to both of those equipments, I personally like the Healing Tome more, but it's again personal preference. Healing Tome makes sure that the troops are less likely to go down, and especially on the back end that can be quite nice. On this attack, for example, we have 3 Yeeters on the outside, 3 Yeeters in the middle or something, which means we have around 6 Yeeters out of 7 still alive. I mean, that's a lot. So you can tell already it's going to be an incredibly strong event troop, which you can play in different approaches. This is by far the easiest. I mean, hands down, this is just super simple. On top of that as well, if you're struggling to get through the entire base with this spell combination, you can as well bring the Earthquake Boots. I personally just like to have the double epic, which means the spiky ball, and as well the gauntlet, way better because it gives you tankiness, while at the same time being able to deal a lot of damage. But again, give it a try on your own. I just feel like with the Earthquake Boots, the troops are just splitting everywhere, but it's personal preference as I already said earlier. For this one, we're going to get a nice 3-star, and the army link, don't worry, it's going to be down below in the description. The same as the next army, because as I said earlier, this is going to be a top 3, which means this is the number 2 position. It is going to be with the Royal Champion charge, and otherwise we're having a pretty much regular smash army, but instead of having the regular thrower army, we are going to have the Yeeters to replace them. As well, we don't need any tanks like a golem, because the Yeeters are generating their own tanks with the first couple of shots. This is as well why you're trying to make sure that you have them kind of staggering them behind each other, because if you deploy all of them at the same time, you're having all of the tanks spawn in the first couple of seconds. So you want to deploy the first 2 Yeeters early with the main push, and then the second 2 a little bit later. But for the first part, it's going to be the Royal Champion charge. On this one, because the Yeeters have such long range and cannot really tank for the Royal Champion, we have to bring the Hog Rider Puppet. Because otherwise, she's just going to run ahead and is just going to die. So instead, we have to make sure that we have this little bit of extra protection. So this is why we're going to bring the Hog Rider Puppet, which is going to be crucial for the later stages of the attack. The next part, as you can already tell, we're going to deploy the first 2 Yeeters. We have the Archer Queen to funnel, then the healers, the Warden, the King, the wall breaks, everything into the base. to then make sure that we can have the last 2 Yeeters a couple of seconds delayed to make sure that we're spawning even more of those little tanks. Because remember, every single Yeeter is the equal to 4 tanks, 4 times 3000 hit points. That is a lot. They are as well able to get through walls really quickly. So don't use the jump or your king ability too early. Really, really important. And on this one, we're actually going to use the earthquake boot. But it is up to you to decide if that is actually helpful or not. As I said earlier, my personal preference is for sure the double epic, but this one really shows that the earthquake boot can work as well. Let me know what you prefer as well on your Barbarian King. I think I would go for the double epic. But I still want to have it included in the overall strategy list with 1 earthquake attack at least as well. But the Royal Champion, the Archer Queen, the remaining Yeeters, everything collapsing on this back end, and we still have to jump to make sure that everything is possible to be reached from the remaining troops. The Royal Champion walking and jumping around the outside buildings or around the Yeeters. Make sure that this is going to be a nice 3-star for us, and as well with the Hot Rider Puppet, we're quite easily able to overpower this merged cannon on the back end. This could have been otherwise quite tricky because remember, without the Hot Rider Puppet, this could have been a problem. But this to me is the number 2 position. So now we should get towards the number 1 position, which is going to be with the Fireball. As well, as I said earlier, the Mass Yeeter is for sure the easiest way. The Royal Champion and the Fireball is a bit more tricky because you need to get a little bit more creative, especially with the Fireball. But we'll get through all of that in just a second. For this one, it is pretty much the exact same army, but instead of having a recall or like a lot of those invis spells, we're running the earthquakes to make sure that with the Fireball together, we can take down a huge part of the village. Important as well is what you're going to take down with the Fireball. You're aiming for a huge area to take down a lot of buildings. Yes, getting value itself with taking down key defenses is great as well, but the most crucial thing you're aiming for is just a really deep funnel in the base. The reason for this is the long range of the Yeeters, because if you don't get this really deep funnel, well, that's going to be problematic for you because the Yeeters cannot be controlled as good anymore. With this one, we're trying to create an even better funnel, and again, really crucial, the first 2 Yeeters early and then wait for the next 2 Yeeters to really have like this back-to-back non-stop tanking when the first couple of tag team members went down. You have the Archer Queen on the other corner to push everything into the base, use the first couple of wall breaks to get into the base, and then the jump to make sure that you're opening the rest of the base. On this one, wall breaks first, the jump after, and then we have the king this time around with the double epic. This means as well that you're tanking a lot in this core while still being able to bounce a lot of damage on the back end with the spiky ball. If you're running the earthquake boots, you have 2 options. The first one is the spiky ball and the second one is the gauntlet. Personally, I prefer the gauntlet because I really like the really heavy tanking of that equipment. But it's personal preference because the spiky ball is still a really good combination with the earthquake boots as well. Totally up to you, total personal preference. As I said earlier many times, the double epic is my way to go. On this one, because we did not use the jump perfectly, our Yeeters cannot reach the back end like the Inferno Tower, but most of those core defenses are going down anyways. On this one, I should have frozen for the Royal Champion so she's having more hit points, but in the end I guess it was more important for me to swag the freeze in the end. But still, having so many Yeeters alive, and as for the Archer Queen, really shows how much power there is. I just think it's the perfect combination for this troop, and that's pretty much the top 3 list for me. Let me know if I have skipped any combinations you have found so far, or if you think there is something missing within the top 3 of this ranking. Let me know if you like the overall approaches of this strategy, and what your top 3 strategy looks like for this event troop. Otherwise, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys back tomorrow with the next class video. Until then, see ya, and bye-bye.